Hi, boys and girls. Today, we are continuing on our journey here, and we are really in the final stages of this kind of prep work, pre writing work to really get started. And today's lesson, we're really going to be prepping to draft these stories. And I want to start by just saying how proud I am, how amazing some of the work that you all have been doing these past few weeks as far as collecting interviews. We have discovered some really awesome stories within just my class. And I know Miss Nudera and Miss Aiken's classes have great stories as well. I mean, we have someone who discovered that their mom's most embarrassing memory is when they moved to America and couldn't speak English and being somewhere and not understanding anyone. We have several parents who told their most amazing memory being when some of you were born and they're having their first son, their first daughter, and those memories of some of you and how precious you are to them. We have someone's dad whose best memory was getting their high school diploma and realizing how important education was. We have memories of family vacations and people going for their first horseback ride. This is so awesome. The stories that you now have and what you've learned about some of your parents and family members. And I can't wait to see us now start to turn those into some really amazing drafts. Now, as we're working today, we're going to really start picking out which story we want to stick with because we interviewed at least three different people and we're going to pick one that we want to stick with here. And then we are going to come up with some questions to ask that person because I know some of you are finding that we're kind of missing some of those details to really be in their shoes. Now, I can make some of them up, right? But we want to make sure we're telling a true, honest story. So we're really going to ask some questions today to get prepped for drafting. I want you to take a second to put that objective into your own words. So, choosing a story idea and creating a list of questions for different story elements to prep for drafting. What does that mean to you? What is that objective, or what is your goal by the end of today? And I need a nice drum roll here because we have made it finally to the time to pick a story. So, you have now interviewed someone about a turning point in their life. You have interviewed someone about a strong feeling they've had. I chose the feeling embarrassed. You might have chose a different feeling. And you interviewed someone about being inspired by a different story. So you have at least three people now, three different stories that you could tell. So I have my sister, and the moment she realized she wanted to be a counselor. I have my mom walking into glass at a post office, and I have my dad not being able to join the football team. So when I'm thinking between those three, really this is just personal preference right now. My sister's story is a little complicated to me to tell, right? It's just that realization of being wanting to be a counselor, but she didn't necessarily have a strict time that made her realize that. So that makes that story not as easy for me to be able to tell, just because it's not going to be a small moment story. It's going to be more of like a realization. So I'm going to take that one out. My mom's would be fun to tell because it'd just be super funny. But my dad's seemed like it had kind of a deeper feeling to it, right? Of that disappointment of not being able to join his friends. So I think I'm going to go with picking my dad's story about not being able to join football. And I want you to pause the video here, and I want this to be step one. So pause the video, go back, think about the three stories you have, and pick one that you're going to stick with for drafting this unit. All right, you now have your story and we're ready to move on. So, what we are going to do today is I know that there are pieces missing, right? When I interviewed my dad, I was just kind of getting a broad take on his story, and there's more I need to know about. Now, keep in mind, you need to become this person. I need to become my dad in the story. My other characters are going to call me Todd. I am my dad as a kid going into middle school wanting to play football. So, there's more I need to know from him from what he told me. So what I am going to do is I am going to come to my note catcher here, if I could find it. There we go. And I want to fill this in to get ready to interview him. So hello, Dad. I decided to tell your story about the time when you wanted to join the football team, but your parents wouldn't let you. To be the story I used for drafting this unit. Thank you so much for telling me the story, but I need to get some more details from you. Now we really have these broken down into some different elements, so that way you can prep yourself to come up with questions targeted to the areas we might need it. So as far as the setting, I'm kind of thinking, and I know great writers use a lot of detail so that my readers feel like they're living this story with me as my dad. So there's more I need to know because I wasn't my dad back then. I wasn't even alive back then, and I need to know more to tell this. So the first thing I'm thinking about is what season was it when this was happening? Because once I know a season, I can use a lot of the details. I lived in Minnesota as far as knowing where this is taking place. That's where my dad grew up. So I know that part, but if I know the seasons, I can start to know if it's fall and there's crunch of leaves, if it's summer and he can feel the heat on his back while things are happening. And I'm going to leave the answer part blank. I don't have an answer until I talk with him. What else might I be wondering as far as the setting? I know, I'm wondering, where were you when you asked your parents to join the football team? Because I need to know if he's at home or if he was at school. And then I want to know a little bit of details about that setting so I can try to bring it to life when that's happening. All right, characters. I'm going to ask my dad to describe my grandparents from his perspective. So were they strict? Were they more easygoing? Was it just like, that's the way it is, that's it? So I'm going to ask my dad, what were your parents, which are my grandma and grandpa, like when this was happening? Strict, angry, matter of fact. I just need some detail of how to describe them and how kind of this conversation went between them. Then I want to know, what were your friends' reactions when you told them you couldn't join football? That way I know a little bit more of how to make his friends, who are going to be characters in my story, how to make their reactions. Now, this is important, right? All stories should teach a life lesson, a theme. So when I'm thinking about my dad's story of disappointment, I want to kind of get to the lesson he learned. Now, you might just ask them straight up, what lesson did you learn from this? Or you can ask kind of some questions to get them there. So how did you deal with this disappointment? Is going to be one of mine. And then I'm just going to ask my dad, what lesson did you learn from this experience? Now, there is a spot for any other questions that you might have for this person as you're thinking through what you're going to need to know to tell this story. And I'm really wondering, how did you react to being told this? That way I can give my dad's best reaction of, did he storm away to his room? Did he start yelling back? Did he go to a friend and complain to a friend? I just know I need a little more detail to bring that part of the story to life. I might think of some more questions, especially as I hear some of you think of things, because sometimes we learn from our classmates, right? So I'm going to leave the rest blank, but I might come up with more and I will put them there. But what I want you to work on today is getting this filled out. So I want you to think about what questions you need to know to really be able to write this as if you are this person. So go into this Google Doc and get these questions started, get them filled out, and start thinking through what questions you need to ask so that when I tell you to write this story as if you are this person, you're prepped, you're ready to do it.